what's going to actually drive you forward on your goals, whether that's financial, career, sobriety, fitness, whatever it is. As a man with a background in recovery, business ownership, all that type of stuff, I've worked with different people. I've gone through stuff myself. And when I look at goals, like what a lot of people do is they set a target and then they just kind of shoot for it and think, hey, I want to go there. But that when they set it, there's no reason why behind it. There's no like purpose for the goal. It's just some sort of arbitrary thing. And it comes from things like social media or what like their parents said and all that. The biggest thing about goals is goals are things we can achieve, but what's actually more important is how we get there, because you can get to say, an income of like 10K, 15K per month in different ways. But what's really important to understand is that if you're not currently making 10 to 15K a month, you are not living the standards of the person who can make 10 to 15K a month. So like you're not living the lifestyle, you're not focusing on the things, you're not doing the things or avoiding the things that person lives out, does do, or does not do. So whenever you're setting goals, what's important to understand is it's not about hitting the goal, it's about becoming the type of person who easily achieves the goal. And that person loves the process. That person loves doing the things that lead to it. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean that, you're just always happy and optimistic about it. What it means is you are deciding that there's a process to get me there. So like I work in sales, and so there's a process to get to higher income months, right? There's a system of behavior. There's things to focus on and things to ignore. There are things that are important and foundational, and there's things that are like frivolous or just unnecessary and not worth attention. It's same thing with fitness. There are certain lifestyle things that go along with improving your fitness. And a lot of times when I ran my gym, people really struggled when it came to like challenges and stuff like that, because they just did it because of the challenge. But once the challenge was over and they got whatever their reward was from completing it, being seen, being recognized, they didn't stay with it, right? And that's because they were not into the lifestyle. They didn't adopt the behavior, the patterns, and love that part more than the result. And so really, when it comes to setting goals, you got to have like a why behind it, but underneath that why, you have to have a who. Like, who are you becoming? Why is that important? And then what is the goal that you're trying to achieve? When those three things are built, you're going to make an internal change that leads to the external outcome. So like for me, I sold my gym, and one of the things I noticed really fast was my motivation for fitness was different, because back then part of fitness was, hey, I'm a gym owner. I bore that identity. It's who I was. And so that guy worked out in his gym as an example to his members. And I just did that all the time. And then so now like fitness, for me, what I realized once I went into sales full time, and sales has an interesting dynamic of like seasons and increase, decrease, and you're working to help people make changes, but you're ultimately working sometimes with things you can't control. And so there are days where things don't go your way, but they do go your way. And so it's like, in order to succeed in that, you can't just ride the up and down. You have to learn to have some sort of normalcy. And what I learned was training, working out on a regular basis is one of the things that levels me. It grounds me, right? Journaling is a thing like that. Getting back to making content is a thing like that. When I'm trying to refine what I'm communicating and actually take the things that I've learned and give them back to others so that they can learn them, right? Those things ground me, so that then whenever I go through a day and like maybe, I miss a few calls, right? Or maybe have a great day, those highs and lows don't carry me as high or as low, because I'm living out a process. Like I'm a professional, but underneath that, I'm a person who cares about his health, who is taking care of his mental health, who is focused on making sure that I'm showing up when I show up to do my sales work as the best person that I can be for that activity, whether it's sales calls, prospecting, whatever the work includes. And so when I set my income goal for myself, like what I look at is like, okay, someone who earns that much in sales, like who are they? Like, what do they prioritize? What do they focus on? And so like that person is, they probably wake up at the same time every day. They probably wake up early. They probably focus on making sure that their mental health is in check. For me, there's a spiritual component as a person of faith. So I make sure my spiritual health is in check. That person is probably really hyper-focused on a few activities that actually lead to the results that they're getting. They probably don't eat like crap during the day, so they don't go through like lots of insulin ups and downs, so they feel sleepy, then awake, or they need, caffeine all day. And the truth is, like, when I sold my gym, like, I was struggling with some of those things because I didn't attach the who and the why to these things. I just knew, like, I was like, hey, I want to hit this target. But once I started like going all in and playing full out on those pieces, like the internal drivers and like who was I trying to become and why, I started to make progress. Not because I was intensely focusing on, oh, I got to earn this. I don't have like a thermometer or like a gauge saying, oh, I've earned this much this month and like calculating how far I went to go. I actually stopped thinking about that, but then I started earning higher commissions. I actually started closing at a higher rate. I started making more progress. And it's because when I showed up, I wasn't just showing up because I wanted the financial result. I was showing up because of who I'm becoming and why I want to become that person. Because at the end of the day, in 10 years, I want to be financially in a much better place than I am now. I want to have certain financial freedoms. I want to have been disciplined with my money. I want my health to be intact and even better than it is today. I want to be easily active with my family. Like, there's pieces to this. There's a why and a who beneath it that leads to the goal, right? And so you take any goal you have in your life. You want to lose a certain amount of weight. You want to earn a certain amount of money. Like, you want to have a certain healthy relationship that's healthy, like with your kids or your wife or whatever. You want to get sober, man. All of it, what it is it's about determining what the standards are of the person you're trying to become. And then the X factor in that is to focus anytime you have inputs, things that feed that. So whether that's content, podcast, music, prayer for me, meditation, whatever you want to call it, the people that you have conversations with. So like for me, I work for a guy and I talk to him, and he's the guy that I listen to when it comes to my career because he's done a lot more than me and been successful in it. So like I listen to that. I have another sales coach. I have people that I listen to and I look to because they're more successful than me. And so I'm like, hey, who is that person? What do they focus on? What do they not focus on? Same thing. Like if you have someone who that's fit, like who are they? How do they look at themselves? What do they prioritize? What do they focus on? And then when you think about achieving the goal, you don't think about achieving the goal. You think about the achievement of becoming that person. And here's what's cool. That person can consistently do what you're looking to. See, goals, a lot of times when people look at goals, they think of hitting the thing just for hitting the thing. But like there's a work to maintain it. And the person that has learned how to live like that consistently, like they're the ones that actually like they don't just hit the goals, but they maintain that level of success in their achievement. So they don't just hit it one time, but it becomes a norm. And I've noticed that in my commissions, like once I start to hit some consistency, that becomes my new norm. And then I go to the next level. And then, but almost always it's some form of personal development behind it. Are there professional development pieces? Yes, you got to have the skills, but like really underneath it, it's who I am. It's my identity. It's the combination of things I say I'm going to do. And if I follow through with them, it's the who and the why. Like, why do I want to do this? Like for me, like growing up, like we always had financial struggles, man. And I don't want to have that. Right. But even that, like that doesn't give me long-term fulfillment because once I hit it, then like, I'll be like, okay, cool. Like I want to progress to the next thing. So like even deeper, certain things that motivate you today, they're going to have to be interchanged with something more positive and growth oriented in the future. Right. So like for me, sobriety was at first it was just like, hey, I don't want to go back there. But then what I learned is like actually long-term sobriety is about focusing on the future and the person you're becoming and then what you're building. Most people that focus on the relapse mentality of sobriety, they're just like, hey, avoid the past, avoid the past, avoid the past. But like that's got you thinking about the past and the thing that you want to avoid, but you're also thinking about that thing. And if you think about it long enough, it becomes something that's on your mind, and the likelihood of relapse goes way up, right? But when you start thinking about the future, about where you want to go and the person, the life you want to have, when you get really focused and clear on that, those people have a lot more long-term sobriety success, but also fulfillment in the life that they end up living because it's built on where they're going and what they're growing into. It's not built on staying the same and just avoiding this little thing. So when it comes to, what's going to help you effectively hit goals, well, the first thing is you got to have a who and a why behind the what. You have to have who are you becoming, Why do you want to do that behind the goal? And then it's diving really deeply in on the personal development piece. It's getting clear on that person and the person who can achieve that goal. And the reason you want to do this, and it's sometimes you have to be thoughtful about it. Like you can't just like throw your head into something in an unsustainable way, something that you can't keep doing. You have to sit back and think like, well, what does that person do? Like, how do they think? How do they live their lives? And then long term, guess what? Whenever you get to one level and you want to go to the next, we do the same thing. It's constant iteration. But again, the person who loves walking will always walk longer than the person who loves taking a peak. Like I climb peaks. The person who enjoys the climb will bag more peaks and endure the pains of high altitude differently than the person who's like, I just want to get to the top. But even more, their whole entire experience is much more joyful and exciting because at the end of the day, like these are the good old days. I see that sign everywhere. I'm going to order it for my office. But like a lot of people look back and they're like, those are the good old days. But what they don't realize is like these can be the good old days of what you look back on in the future. But then those can be the good old days. Like it's about perspective, right? And so if you don't like where you're at, set goals and get out of it. But like decide who that person is that's going to achieve that goal and start becoming that person. Start being like evaluating based on character traits, on habits, on routines, not just on did you do the thing, right? And what's cool for me is what I've noticed is when I become the person, I hit the goal, but like I'm more satisfied with the goal, not in the sense of like, oh man, I need to celebrate this, but I'm like, oh, I became the person. Like this isn't just an achievement of a thing. This is an achievement of designing and focusing my habits, my routines, just my attention, like what I do on becoming that person. So I just want to encourage you with that, like, because I see a lot of people, they set goals and they never hit them. And what I see behind it is they're just setting arbitrary goals. They're not actually focusing on, hey, who do I need to become? Why do I need to become that person? And then building based on that. If you do that, a lot of times, not only are you going to hit more goals, but you're going to be a more well-rounded person. Like you're not going to be forsaking this thing for that thing. So, because like as Andy Elliott likes to say, you don't have to sacrifice your family for money. You can have it all, man. You can be successful with money. You can be successful in your with your family relationships. You can be successful with your health. You can do it all. And that well-rounded person, that's the person who loves the process. They love the process of those things. They're not looking just for like, hey, when I get here one day, then I'll be happy. No. They enjoy the process. They're the person that's focused on becoming that person. So just want to encourage you guys, build the person who can do the thing. Awesome, guys. I'll see you later.